Hi there, it's Lisa from The Backward Glance, and today I wanted to do a quick review of TheRealReal.com. I have used this as an outlet to sell some of my higher end finds. The first items that I sent in were listed in January, so I'm relatively new to the process. I've sent 2 shipments so far, and I'm getting a third one ready to ship hopefully this week. So I just thought I'd give some feedback. Mostly, I've had a very positive experience. I have a couple little critiques to throw in here and there. If you've seen my videos before, you know that I mostly sell on eBay. So the great thing for me about the RealReal is that there are a lot of high-end brands that are actually really hard to sell on eBay. And if you go in and look at the prices, they might look great, but then if you look at the sell-through rates on those items, they're actually really low. And I think that one of the reasons that it's hard to flip some of those brands is that people get burned and they get fakes and they decide not to go back through eBay to buy their high-end designer stuff. So the RealReal will authenticate things for you. And one thing to know is that if you send them something that they decide is fake, according to their policy, and you sign a contract with them when you start selling, they will actually destroy fake items, not send them back to you. So don't buy things unless you're pretty sure that they're real. But then it's great, I think, to be able to send them and have them do the work, and I don't have any stress about it. They can decide whether it's real or not. I live in an area where I cannot go without driving at least 2 hours. I can't get to anywhere where I could possibly have something authenticated. I know that their service is online, but I'd really rather the person who's authenticating it have the item in their hands. So I leave behind lots of designer stuff if I'm not sure, or if I think that it might be fake, because I don't want to invest in something that's going to get destroyed. But if I'm like 99% sure it's real, then I like to send it to them and have them do the work of authenticating it. So to me, that's one of the biggest benefits of using this site. And you don't have to pay them to authenticate it, because you're paying them when the item sells, essentially, because they're taking part of the sale price, but you're not going to like a website and paying a flat 15 rate fee or something, $15 fee to get something authenticated, and investing more in that item before you're even listing it and selling it. So to me, that is one of the biggest reasons that I really love using this site. So this is the page that you come to as the home page right when you sign in. If you have never been on the RealReal, this is what it's going to look like. And if you want to start consigning with the RealReal, then you come over here and hit this consign, which I've already actually opened this page. And before you even do this, you really need to take a look at their designer list. And I actually printed out the women's designer list. I've yet to print out the men's one so that I could kind of go through it at my leisure. It's pretty long. And you want to make sure that the items that you're going to send in are on the designer list. So if you're doing it for the first time, if you are local to a RealReal location, you can actually have them come visit you, and you can make an appointment with them, as you see here. And if you have like designer jewelry and things, they can actually send a gemologist out. So that is all stuff that I'll probably never need to get into, the jewelry side of it. And obviously I'm not local to one of their stores, so what I did was hit ship direct, and they sent a label to me. Along with that, there was a form to fill out where I put in the brand of the items and also like the category, so if it was shoes or something like that. Pretty non-specific. So here's where I wanted to say a little bit of a critique. 2 things for me. They only ship through UPS, and I'm actually not local to any UPS. There is one drop-off that's about a half an hour away from me, but you can only put like the tiniest little box in there. So when I do this, I have to plan a time when I'm actually going to be near a UPS store that I can drop it off at. So I wish that they had the option to use USPS, but they don't. So that's something to know about it. The other thing is a comment about their designer list. When you do it the first time, like I said, you're going to fill in these details, and it's not going to allow you to fill in anything that's not on their designer list. So your first shipment cannot include anything that's not on the designer list. And of course, they're always saying, like, don't ship us stuff that's not on the designer list. But the kind of frustrating thing is that there are a lot of brands that I have that are moving really slow on eBay for me that I'd love to send in that aren't on the designer list. But they're selling those brands, and they seem to be consistently keeping those brands in stock. It's not like it looks like they're clearancing out their stock of those brands. I watched a video by Jack Valentine. If you don't watch him, he sells a lot on Poshmark, but he also uses TheRealReal. And he talked to his consignment rep, because after you send in your first shipment, you get assigned a consignment rep, and you can go to them with any questions that you have. And he talked to his consignment rep, who told him that it was okay to send in some brands that were not on the list, as long as they're brands that they are selling on the site. And then I talked to my consignment rep, who said that I couldn't send those brands in. So that was a little bit of a bummer for me, because like I said, these things have been really slow to move on eBay, but they're nice items, they're in style, and I would like to send them. Now, I recently got a new rep, and I haven't talked to my new rep about this, but in future purchases, you don't fill out the web form. You get, when they send you a label, they'll email you a label, and then you get a sheet that you print and you actually write in what you're sending. So I think what I'm going to do is send in like one brand that I see that they're selling that's not on their designer list, but they're currently selling it, and just kind of see what happens. Maybe if they take that, then every time that I ship, I'll send in like one nice item that I think they'll take from a brand that's not on their list. I'm not necessarily encouraging you to do that. That's just something I'm going to try out and see what happens. So next, let's look at the commission rates. And this is all information that you can find by navigating their site. Obviously, I just pulled these up to make it a little easier, and let's actually go to the top. So another sort of critique I have is that I think it's a little bit confusing the way that they give you this information. So first, they show you this, which is your level. And you're going to start off as an insider. That's the lowest level. As you make more money, you can jump up to icon, and then if you ended up selling $10,000 in a year, you could jump up to the VIP level. And so it's showing you this 70%, 60%, 55%. So that seems straightforward, but then you go down here and you see this item commission rates, and there's all these different tiers down to 40%. And I'm mostly consigning clothing. If we kind of look at this, like the highest level is watches that sell for $2,500 or more, resale price. Then handbags, men's sneakers, handbags, watches, jewelry, art, home items. And then we get down here, all items with an original resale list price, which is also odd. Original resale, so I guess that's the price that they put on it. If they sell it between $146 and $195, then you get 50%, so that's lower than that insider rate. And then all items with an original resale price of $145 or less are actually 40%. And this, of course, changed right after I started selling. So my very first shipment, there was no 40% bracket, and the lowest that I got was 50%. And then, of course, it just seems like that's how it happens when you start using a service, as all of a sudden it gets a little more expensive. Most of the items that we probably come across in thrift stores that are designer are not like Chanel, and they're not Gucci. So I am going to guess that like 95% of the items I ever send in are actually going to fall in this 40% bracket. So that's just something to know. When I'm only paying a few bucks at a thrift store for these designer items, I can still make a good profit by getting 40% of what they list it for. So I still think that it's a worthwhile service, but definitely something to keep in mind. Like I said, when you see this 55%, it's a little bit misleading. And also when you see like these list price of 1,000 or more, none of this says clothing, so it really seems like the highest percent you'd ever get for clothing is 50%, if I'm understanding this right. So like I said, a little bit of maybe confusing language about their structure is a critique I would have. And now let's look at my page. So I signed into my account and went to my sales, and I pulled this up. I'm not sure how long these listings stay visible, but the original listings from what I sent in at the end of December were listed in January. I got paid for them in February, and they're still showing on here. So I thought it was a good time to pull this up before they disappear. One thing that I'd like to say, and this is totally understandable, I don't mean it as a critique, it takes a while. You're not going to send in something and get paid the next day. It's not like eBay where you maybe can list something and it happens to sell quick and the money is in your account. It takes about 2 weeks just for them to receive the package from UPS, in my experience. Like I said, I've sent in 2 different boxes. Both of them took about 2 weeks. I got an email to let me know that they were received. And then over the next week or so, you start to see some progress being made, like they'll take pictures and they'll put a description, but the item may not be live yet. They also might put a price on the item that can change before it goes live. You might see that, oh, they're going to sell this for $200, and then the next day you look and they decided to sell it for $145 or something. So all of that info is changeable until it's live. That being said, the first shipment that I sent in was 6 items, and they accepted 5 of them. The item that they didn't accept, they sent back to me at no charge. And these first 2 items here are actually the 2 items that really prompted me to sell on TheRealReal. I found this skirt, and I was really excited to find it. And I sold it on eBay really quickly, actually. Beautiful skirt by Self Portrait. And the buyer actually told me that they thought that it was fake. So I had to refund them in full and also refund their shipping, which was such a bummer. I looked over this so carefully and I really thought that it was real. In fact, I didn't know that brand, but when I saw this skirt, I was like, wow, this is really high quality. I better look it up. So I sent it to TheRealReal just to sort of see for myself what they would say, and they said that it was real. And they actually, I think I sold it for $50 on eBay. They listed it for $124. The buyer used a 20% coupon, and I got paid $62. And at the time, you can see that was at that 50%. It would have been 40% if it had been a more recent sale, because that commission rate changed. So I actually got more for it than what I sold it for full price on eBay. And I was really, really happy with that. I think I paid $3.99 plus tax for that, and it was beautiful. And then the other item that really kind of prompted me to want to send into TheRealReal was this sweater. There's not a picture of it because they sent it back to me. This was the one item that they sent back. And I got this. It seemed very high quality. The fabric felt really, really nice. I've actually been wearing it since they sent it back. And it was tagged Burberry Brit. And I did some preliminary research. It seemed like it might be real, but I couldn't find the exact same sweater anywhere. And that kind of raised a red flag for me. So I decided, like, I've been thinking about TheRealReal, I'm just going to send it in, and maybe they'll tell me it's fake. Or if it's real, that's great. So they did not destroy it. They shipped it back with a note that said that they could not determine whether it was real. So that's a possibility. I decided not to sell it. Like I said, I've been enjoying wearing it. It's a totally cute sweater. So I think I paid $4.25 for it, so I'm not much of a loss there. So the other items that they accepted were this Melissa and Vivian Westwood, and it was also and Anglomania jelly shoes, which I actually got out of the bins. Let's see if they still have the picture. So I probably paid less than $1 for these. They were super light. These were actually an item that I had listed on eBay, and I sold them twice, and both times the buyer didn't pay, two different buyers. So went ahead and sent them in here. I actually didn't think that they would take them. I just thought they might be kind of, I don't know, they're not very fancy. But they took them. They got a way better picture than I could have gotten. And let's see, they listed them at $40. The buyer again used a 20% coupon, and I got $20, which was 50% at the time. So by the way, almost everybody is always going to use a 20% coupon. They constantly have different incentives running where you get 20% off. I think I had one sale that someone didn't use that. So when you look at the price that they put it at, just know the buyer is probably going to use a coupon, and that's going to affect your commission. So that's something to know. Next, I sold these Stuart Weitzman Highland boots. I was so surprised to find these in absolutely perfect condition. They actually said in their listing that the item appeared brand new. They sold these for $356 with a 20% off. I got $195.80. And that actually fell into that higher bracket because of the original list price. So I got 55% commission on that. And the next item from that were these Burton cargo pants. These actually took a long time to sell. I want to say that usually it's really quick. Almost everything I've sold has been like a week or less, but these actually sat for a few months. I'm surprised because it was January at the time, but at any rate, they did end up selling for $45. They were 40% off because they had sat so long that they got marked down. So my commission on those was only $22.50. My investment in those was $4.25, I think, so it was still a good profit for me, and I didn't have to deal with them. And the last item from that particular lot was this Rachel Zoe floral cardigan. I would have called it a duster, I think, but at any rate, it was new with tags. This was an item that sat in my eBay store without getting any real activity, and I think I had it listed for around $40 or $45. They listed it for $60. My commission on it ended up being $30. I believe I paid $5.99 plus tax or something like that, so that was also a good flip. Now my next box was a little less successful in terms of how much they took. I sent in 6 more items, and they only took 3 of them, one of which is still for sale. So the first thing was this Allen Edmonds leather belt. This actually was like very low quality. I mean, I actually looked it up and found the exact one for sale through the Allen Edmonds website. I believe selling for somewhere in the mid, between $100 and $200, so expensive. But it had this like orange edge on it. I just have to show you because sometimes these designer items, it's like, who is paying for this? You can kind of see it here, like the orange actually bled into the blue part. But when I found it, it was new with tags, so I couldn't leave it behind. It was only $2.99 plus tax. At any rate, someone bought it and they didn't return it. And that's all I care about. And that sale happened really quick. So they sold it for $44. My commission, 40% at this time, was $17.60. And the next were these Lafayette 148 slides. Really beautiful. Absolutely brand new condition on these. Funnily, I don't know if that's a word. Size 8, which is my size, and these would not stay on my feet. Like, this snakeskin loop was not tight enough around my foot, so I'm guessing that's why somebody donated them. but I was so confident that whoever bought them would return them, but they didn't. So $95 they sold those for, and I received 40% of that, so 38. Next, I sent in an equipment dress shirt. It was only a cotton one, not a silk one, which I know is the silk is a little more desirable. No picture. They sent this one back to me. They said it had interior staining. I didn't find that when I looked it up. Oddly, I found a very small exterior stain, and I listed it on eBay with that disclosed, and it has not sold yet. Then I sent in this Lafayette 148 evening jacket. It's a size 18, which I thought was a great size. I think they're pretty picky about what they'll take from this brand. It's one of the more common ones that they probably get sent, but in this size, and it's a really nice tweed, so it had that going for it. Listed for $125. I'm guessing I'll make about 30 or 40 on this when all is said and done. It might be almost at the point where they're going to mark it down for, for being on there for a long time. And this item actually sold within like 3 or 4 days of listing, and then it got returned and it went back up, and now it's just been sitting. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Don't count your chickens before they hatch and all that stuff. People have 14 days to return items, and if that happens, it can take a little while for it to get back on the website, so it's a little bit of a waiting game. Then I sent in 2 theory items. I didn't think necessarily they'd take the top. It was really basic, nothing that they could charge a lot for, but I'm really surprised they didn't take the pants. They didn't give me a reason, they just didn't take them, and they shipped them back to me, so just a couple last notes. Like I said, it's a slow process. Getting it listed is a slow process, but then also you're not getting paid until a month after. So the items you sell, for example, through, like now it's May, so anything I sold through May 15th, I wouldn't be getting paid till the next month. So besides just waiting for them to do listing and stuff, you're also going to wait to get paid because the customer might end up returning the item. Other than that, it has been a really great service. Expect things to get returned, expect things to get marked down, expect people to use those 20%. But when you're finding these designer brands, especially if they're sitting in your Poshmark or your eBay and they're not selling, this can be a really great outlet for you. So that's all that I wanted to share with you about using the RealReal. If you have questions, let me know. Since I just said that, I did think of one more thing. I do want to give them like an A++ on customer service. I've had to reach out with a few questions, and they've always answered me really quickly, so that's another thing that they have going for it. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching.